If you own a small business, the name of your business really doesn't matter as long as you deliver an amazing product or service. Do you agree or disagree? Here's the deal. Whether you're a hobbyist, solopreneur, freelancer, entrepreneur, CEO, no matter where you are on that ladder or off the ladder, depending on what you call yourself, the name of your business absolutely matters. And I'll tell you why. Now, before I do, let me introduce myself for those of you that I've just met and reintroduce for those of you that have come back. My name is Tia Robertson. I am the founder of the Black Entrepreneurs Network and the host of this show, Entrepreneur Insider. Thank you for joining us for another episode. Now, let's get into business names. Unfortunately, there are a lot of new entrepreneurs that don't understand the importance of their business name. Now, your name not only sets you apart from any competition or just the market that may not necessarily be competition, it helps with your branding. It helps people find you. There's so many wonderful things about having a name. And yes, I realize that there are some businesses out there with distinctive names like Xerox or made up names. That is true. There's some businesses that have names that are really similar, in some cases the same. Kind of think of Office Max or Office Depot. Or if you think of banks, right? Sometimes there's a People's Bank of Maryland and a People's Bank of Florida. Now, do those banks have any of the confusion? Should they have named themselves something different? I'm not here to answer that for you. What I am here to tell you is the importance of thinking about a name and having a distinctive name. One, it does set you apart from businesses that may do the same thing, as well as businesses that do something totally different. I mean, how many times have you gone to Google People's Bank thinking that you're getting the one right up the street from you in Wisconsin, and come to find out you get the search results for the one all the way across the country in Oregon? That is why names are distinctive. The other reason, and one of the most important reasons, besides being able to have people find you, which is very important, is that sometimes some names are copyrighted and trademarked. And so basically what that means is that their owner contacted the United States government and they protected their name. They do that to make sure that no one's going to use it fraudulently, in an illegal way, in a way that brings down their reputation. And a lot of you will want to trademark your names. And if you're not at that point, you will be. Everyone should protect their brand. What happens when you don't? What happens when you use a name like Blue Ivy without actually determining that, doing some research and determining that someone has protected that name? Well, on the smallest scale, you'll get a cease and desist letter. You'll get a letter in the mail that basically says, stop using the name. So cease, meaning stop, and just resist. Don't use it anymore. Don't use it in your branding. And so if you've developed business or created business cards, you have a website, you've put so much of your time and your energy and your resources into building your company. If you find out that you're using a name that someone else has already protected, that's money down the drain. You also are risking, on the other end of the spectrum, somebody potentially going after you in a lawsuit for infringing on their property and their rights, because that's really what you did. So it is vitally important for several reasons, including the ones that I mentioned, but some other ones, that you take the time to determine an appropriate username. Now, that means everything from contacting your state to make sure that trade name is available, to contacting the government and searching the patent office records to make sure the name is available for when you do want to actually trademark it, to actually looking at social media and making sure the name is available. There are a lot of similar businesses out there that may be using that name. And again, do you really want to build up your brand and your reputation only to find out that someone else is using the same thing because they didn't follow the right steps? Suppose they have some practices that you don't agree with. And again, because the names are similar, someone gets you confused. Or again, suppose somebody goes to find you and they can't find you because they find this other website and they determine, hey, I'd rather do business with them. Now, does that mean that you always have to come up with something totally different and off the spectrum? Basically come up with something that doesn't exist at all? No, there are, variations of names and, things of that nature. But the thing that I really want to stress to you is the importance of taking the time, doing your research, and creating a name. Now, again, I want to stress, even if you're a hobbyist, you're just doing something for fun, and you think, hey, I'm just going to use my name. There are other people out there that could be doing the same thing. So again, spelling is important, names are important. Just take a moment to do some research. And if you need some help, you can always reach out to government resources, you can reach out to the SBA, and you can even contact me. I'll be happy to help you or share some people that can help you determine whether your name is available. So don't skip that step. Do a name check and make sure your name is available for you. Now, here's somebody that we want to feature this week that can also help you out with branding, making sure your name is available, making sure that your name actually matches the tone that you want to share and set for your business. It can help you with developing logos, getting your website off the ground, and more. His name is RJ Ross. He is the owner and the founder of RJ the Designer. What a distinctive name, right? So not only does his name set his business apart, it tells you his superpower. He is a designer. And here to tell you all about him, as well as about branding, some favorite things that he likes about his business and his services, is RJ. So stay tuned. I hope you enjoy this featured interview of our Entrepreneur of the Week. Hello, everybody. I am here with RJ Ross. He is the owner of RJ the Designer. He's an amazing brand coach and mentor, as well as a web and graphic designer. He can transform your brand into an industry contender, right? Because we all want that. He has an amazing free guide that'll help you elevate your brand in 5 simple ways. And you can grab it by going to rjthedesigner.com/offer. I'll be sure to include that in the show notes down below. So welcome, RJ. Thank you for joining us on Entrepreneur Insider. How are you?
Hi, Tia. I'm glad to be here. I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Most people don't ask, so I appreciate that. So as you know, every week we have this show to feature amazing entrepreneurs of color that we want everyone to know about because you have products and services that can benefit us. So this interview is all about you. Okay, so I always start every episode with kind of different, a non-traditional interview question, right? So my question for you to start this interview and kind of get those wheels turning is, besides your company, because I know you're probably a little biased toward your own company,
Yeah, of course.
Which company out there has your favorites or the best logo? And it can be a company you've worked on, or it can be like a major, Fortune 50 company or from another country. Who has the best logo? Why do you like it?
This is a good question because I'm super into looking at logos, judging logos, doing all that kind of stuff. I do a series where I review people's logos. Been also on TikTok. I've been going through a lot of popular logos, giving my thoughts, opinions, what's good, what's not, right? But one of my favorite logos, and this might be cliche, and is Apple, right? I love Apple's logo. Everybody loves Apple's logo, unless you have an Android, and that's a different topic, right? We ain't gonna get into that. There's a whole nother thing if you got an Android. But this is why I love Apple's logo and their branding altogether. It's just so sleek, right? It's so it's just in your face, and it's just like the form is iconic, right? And they're not using a whole bunch of colors but you know, this it's black and white and black, right? And you get the apple with the little, it's bitten out, right? And you can really just like, you can really see the form of it. It's really distinct. And another thing I really like about Apple is their packaging, right? Every time I get something from Apple, whether it be some headphones or a new laptop, it comes in a sleek, white, upscale kind of white packaging. It's almost like white glove. Like if you go to a really fancy restaurant, they have the white gloves. It gives me that kind of feel. So it's super elegant. It's something that I keep all my packaging from Apple because I love it and admire it so much. I put like necklaces and other stuff in it. I repurpose it because I really love their branding. It has that kind of effect on me. So their logo is the same thing. That's why I choose Apple.
That is a great answer. And you know what? It's funny. I keep all the packaging too for a different reason, but kind of because I'm a pack rat. But you're right. Actually, I mean, I like your repurposing idea, first of all, but it's very crisp and pristine. So I love that, that logic. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I may be, their logo has changed over the years, hasn't it? Didn't it used to have like colors and some weird kind of
That's the funny thing about it. And in 2021, they're actually moving back toward that kind of branding where it's like that rainbow kind of color. Because you'll see it. Like, pay attention to Apple. Go to the Apple store. Watch their commercials. You're going to be seeing them transitioning to the color. Now, they went away from that for a time because they wanted to go for what I was just telling you about. But now they want to really concentrate on youthfulness and like what they got next generation, you know, post Steve Jobs and all that kind of stuff. So be lookout for like kind of a retro vibe, which are like a lot of logos now are going for this retro vibe. So just be on the lookout for Apple to follow that same trend.
All right. Well, hopefully I'm going to tag them on this interview and hopefully they'll listen to you and why you like it, because I agree with you. I like the slick. And nothing against the retro vibe, but I kind of like where they are too. So, all right. Yep. So Apple, if you're out there, make sure you pay attention to this video. All right. Okay. So I have a couple branding questions for you in a minute, but before we get to them, I want to know a little bit more about you. Yeah. Can you tell us a little about your background? What did you do before officially becoming RJ the designer?
That's a great question. Well, growing up, I don't know if it's ADHD or whatever. I'm undiagnosed for that, okay? But when I was in first grade, second grade, third grade, I was always the kid doodling in the margins of the homework, right? I couldn't stop drawing, doing all this stuff. I just love creative. My favorite class was always art class. And fast forward to high school, shout out to my high school teacher, Miss Holshoe, who really really encouraged me to pursue the arts and design at a higher level, right? You don't really see that too often because the arts is kind of like being forgotten. A lot of parents are, you know, encouraging their kids to go into more traditional routes of career. Shout out to my parents for letting me, you know, do what I want. I guess they really roll the dice. It was like, hey, if you're a starving artist, that's on you. That's not on me. Right. But my teacher really encouraged me to pursue my passions. And I did that. I love the computer as well. So I guess arts and computers design was kind of a good marriage for that. I ended up getting accepted into Virginia Commonwealth University School of the Arts, and that is one of the top public art schools in the nation. So I was like, okay, I'm on my way. Ended up focusing on the graphic design and branding track. Graduated in 2013, and since then, I was working as a designer on a freelance basis. And I gotta say, for all you young creators out there, and you graduate from your art school, don't expect it to be roses and you're just going to get your dream job right away, right? So I had to work and then moonlight doing design work, right? I was working as a manager at a Waffle House for a long time, working, and then once I got off work, after working 60 hours a week, I was doing logos, websites, whatever I could do. And then I finally got hired on at a small tech company in Richmond, Virginia, and is able to do websites there. Now, fast forward, I'm really focusing on my own projects with companies that I love. I really am focus on helping coaches and consultants of the world with their branding and their funnels and their websites and all that kind of good stuff. So getting their first impressions good so they can have a really effective career is what I'm really focused on. So, but that is the path to RJ the Designer.
Great path. I love the story. Shout out to, what's her name? Miss Holshoe?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Miss
Okay.
Holshoe. Shout out
to her, your parents, and hey, the Waffle House. All right.
Yeah.
And actually, I have a daughter, actually that you just met before this that loves art. So I'm glad you mentioned Virginia Commonwealth, because she kind of feels like there's like one school that she wants to go to, and I'm trying to get her to broaden her horizons, because I am kind of the opposite of your parent. I'm like, I don't want you to be starving and live with me forever. So,
yep.
But I'm glad that they encouraged you to pursue, your giving gifts and talents, because I know growing up, I wasn't always. And so sometimes we kind of struggle to do what our parents want us to and what we're meant to do. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Okay. Love the background. All right. We're going to be looking for the RJ the Designer movie to come out. So, okay. So now that we know a little bit about your background, let's talk a little bit about, your business, your products, your services. How did you come up with the name of your business? RJ the Designer is very unique, but it's distinctive and it's memorable. How'd you come up with it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And, man, I guess the thing is, I couldn't think of anything, right? Sometimes when you just like try to be like too creative, there's like a balance, right? It's like you can't think of nothing, so you don't have no name, or you just kind of throw out the craziest. Like I didn't want to be called like the creative like tugboat or something like that, right? So I came up with RJ the Designer, and I liked it. And a lot of people say, "Oh, you're just biting off of Chance the Rapper. You just changed it." Actually, probably the contrary belief, RJ the Designer was a name before Chance the Rapper, and we were just like, "Oh, look, we're doing the the thing." And then now every time I hop on like Clubhouse or something, they're like, "Man, you just the'd yourself. You better come with the heat. Like you can't just be the designer and just have some whack stuff." So I use that as like also like some motivation to make sure I stay on top of my game, because you calling yourself the designer, it's like the Ohio State University, right? You just the'd yourself. So I don't know. I like it. It is a really, for me, I'm big on personal branding, right? And I'm big on using your name and your likeness, your face, right? And because at the end of the day, if you started a company, a traditional company, like you started the next Apple, and you had to like sell the shares of it, you're no longer, your name and likeness is gone. Like I always wanted to be forefront of it, to where if I were starting to do, instead of RJ Designer doing branding, I want to do RJ Designer and I'm making stickers, it's still RJ Designer. I can pivot, and I can still profit off of just my personal brand. So I'm big on personal branding, and that's one of the reasons why I stick with the name RJ. So
yeah, and you've hit it right on the nail, because as you know, we're in the same networking group, and so I always kind of talk about people's superhero, personalities. And so a couple people, well, they know you because of who you are, of course, and what you do, but they're like, his name is so distinctive. That's like his superhero personality. So you hit it right on the nail. Okay, so you mentioned a little bit about what you do, but just to make sure we cover all your services as well as who your target audience is. So I know that you are a graphic designer, so you can help people with doing like their logos and their websites. What else do you do? Like graphic, because I know a lot of times when people think of graphic designer, they think of like people who make up flyers. Like, do you do things like that as well?
I don't really focus on it. Yeah, that's the thing. When you're a graphic designer, and people use that term for a wide variety of things, right? I know some graphic designers that only do print work, which means they only do flyers, posters, business cards, and things of that nature, right? I know some graphic designers who really only do things that live in an animated space, right? They do things in After Effects, and they're making commercial slides and things of that nature. And that's the beauty of what we do, is you can actually focus on a lot of different things, right? But me, I love to focus on getting, like, if you started a business, it could be really any business, and you just needed to get up and running. You need an identity. I love to live in that space, helping new businesses and help them get started on the right foot, because actually there's a big curve of like getting taken seriously in as starting a new business, right? And I'm trying to help people get to that other side as best as possible. Make sure, you know, you have the website, it's running, it looks professional, the branding is on point, it's everything that goes to your strategically selecting your colors, strategically selecting, you know, your fonts, how you're going to talk and feel and appear online, everything to the logo. And it's kind of a full encompassing thing in the sense of branding. So I'm more of a branding expert, but there's a lot of different things that, you know, designers can do. So that's the great thing too, is I lead with branding, but you know, everything else can fall into that too, right? So whatever you kind of need, I also have the skill set to do that. I have skill sets in coding as well, right? I'm fluent in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which kind of makes me a unicorn in a sense in my industry, which I can kind of move around in those spaces. So yeah, in a sense, I do it all, but I love to focus on the branding, especially, you know, development of these new companies, and focusing right now, like I said before, you know, if you have a personal brand, you have specific needs and things that get you on the road to success. And that is like coaching you up on, you know, how you show up personally, you know, everything as far as like leading people on a journey towards your business and leading them through, whether you're showing up on Instagram first or email or website, and, you know, making that sell or getting that consultation call. So, which is super important.
Definitely. And that is helpful because it actually even answers one of my next questions. So we learned a lot about who your target audience is, which is great. But also how you benefit that audience. So I'm glad you hit those points. Let me just kind of clarify for anyone, because I know there's just a lot of information out there. And not necessarily from you. A lot of times it comes from like celebrities and TV and things like that. But one of the things that I love about the information you put out there is that you make it plain, right? Yep. You make it easy to understand. So I guess my question is, and you touched on it, but just like I said, just to make sure we're clear, what is branding? Because you know, we hear about it like with, you know, Coca-Cola is a brand, Kim Kardashian is a brand. Yep. And so what ends up happening is, you know, we don't think of it in terms of what you said, like your colors and how everything kind of comes together. And so people end up using the term brand or branding incorrectly, or they share inaccurate information. So, okay, I'm going to ask you again, even though you kind of touched on it, and I apologize if it's repetitive, but just want to make sure everyone understands what is branding.
Yeah, that's a great question. I answer this question a lot. So a lot of people think branding is a logo. Branding is not a logo. A lot of people think branding is like, okay, I use this specific red. Going back to Coca-Cola, they actually do have a patented red that nobody else can use. Wow. But that's not branding either, right? Branding isn't, you know, the catchphrase, right? Or something, but you know, there are certain catchphrases like, you know, McDonald's has, you know, I'm loving it. Nobody else could use that, right? But all this stuff put together is your brand, right? I like to think about your brand as, you know, what makes you or your company unique? What makes your company you? Or how do you want your audience to feel when they think of you? And it should be something very specific, right? They should be able to, if they think of, you know, RETV, right? They should be able to come up with something right on top of their head, like, okay, this is RETV. I know this is all of that. So as far as what I help my clients do is we spend a lot of time, you know, with building the foundation of your brand. Before I go into and start creating, we sign off on all these things, right? And it starts with me asking them a bunch of questions, more questions than they probably ever thought about their brand beforehand, right? And they're like, what is going on? Like my questionnaire is infamous for people being like, okay, why are you asking me my whole life? Because I'm trying to get to something here. And the key to when you're looking for a designer, right? If it's not me, please make sure that, they're taking you through some sort of discovery process, right? Because I always said, like, it just hands, like your hands, you're only worth, with like manual label task or like just doing something such and such, you're only worth so much an hour, right? But up here, if you can help somebody with your brain and help them unlock something for them that's going to last forever, you're priceless, right? So if you're looking for value in a designer, it should be more than just an exchange of money and here's what I want, just produce it for you. If you already had a branding consultation with somebody and you just needed somebody to implement that out, that is one thing. But, there are a lot of very, very talented designers, people who I call colleagues and friends, who are going to strategize with you and bring something that, is going to be very true to you. Right. I always say this, that when you're creating branding, when you put it out to the world, it's similar to, bring a child into the world, right? It's just like all these months of preparation and this and that. And it's like uniquely you and all this stuff. And you bring it out to the world. And it's something that you couldn't come up with just by a simple transaction, if that makes sense.
Exactly. That does make sense. Thank you. And I can say personally that I'm close to one of your clients, and they did say, like, your process is very thorough, but in an amazing way, because it brought out things that they never, ever would have thought of, and encourage them, to really consider what they were trying to communicate, which is uber important. And unfortunately, a lot of entrepreneurs do not do that when they start their business. Yeah. And as a result, looking at some of the work that you've done I definitely can tell what was lacking before and what is currently there now. So I definitely applaud all of the listeners to touch base with you and, to answer that question and to talk to you, to maybe, consider your mentoring services and your coaching services and some of the things that can help them along the way, even if they don't get your product-based services. Yep. So you use social media a lot to share your information. From my perspective and from anyone that's watching you, it helps differentiate you from people out there that may do something similar. What made you decide to market your services in that way? And then what have been some of the benefits of using social media?
Wow. Social media really has rejuvenated, revitalized my business in a way I never would have thought. And what kind of really happened was my page, especially my Instagram page, I was using it like much other designers or even other businesses, right? They use it kind of like a little commercial, or maybe like a portfolio, just a visual representation of the services they provide, which is great, right? But like I've mentioned before, and like you mentioned, everybody is kind of doing that, right? And there's only so many posts you can put about like, this is what I do, right? At the end of the day, you're gonna run out, right? For me as a designer, even if I'm producing at a high clip, like a lot of logos, a lot of websites, they're gonna, after like seeing the first like 5 or 6 of them, they get a gist of like what my style is, what my work is, and all that kind of good stuff. So like that kind of runs its course, and you're gonna have a dead and dormant page. And that's what I had. I had a dead and dormant page. So I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get my face in front of the camera, right? I'm going to, put on something nice. I'm gonna, wash my face, and I'm just gonna like hit record, and I'm gonna talk about my industry. I'm gonna talk about, I'm gonna talk about what I'm passionate about. I'm just gonna get in front of the camera. And I'm going to help some people out. Even if they don't end up buying with me, that's fine. I just want to get myself out there and just kind of like put myself in a position to where I am an expertise and have some authority on the subject matter. And that's kind of what happened. Since then, my page has started to it just kind of got a new life to it, right? People are looking at it, they're commenting on it, new followers. People from there, people are, booking consultations with me, Great. And it's been really good. Right. Also just being strategic about, who you partner with and who you share content with and sharing audience and that nature. So it's been a lot of that. I started using TikTok. I started using Clubhouse, a lot of different unorthodox things that other people in my industry weren't necessarily doing.
Yeah, definitely. And it's been an amazing strategy. I recommend everyone not only follow you on TikTok, but also join your Clubhouse room. All of RJ's information and links, usernames to those platforms to be shared down below. But speaking of TikTok and some unique platforms, right? Like a lot of people always think like I have to be on Facebook, I have to be on Instagram, or the other strategy, I have to be on everything. I have to be on Pinterest, I have to be on LinkedIn. And I know personally, I talk to them like, no, your audience is not on every platform. You do not need to be on every platform. So I like that you know who your target audience is. You go after that target audience in a unique way that we just discussed. But you also think out of the box in terms of what platforms to be on. So in addition to TikTok and Clubhouse, you're also on Twitch, which I know I never heard of Twitch before I met you. And I think part of it might be my age. Like, that's all we're going to say about that. But part of it is, again, just kind of knowing the best way to reach people and knowing that there are other things out there besides just the norm, right? So how did you find out about Twitch? Tell us about like what Twitch is, because a lot of people may not know what it is, and how does it differ from other platforms, and what type of information are you able to share on Twitch that maybe you can't share on like an Instagram or a Facebook?
Yeah, Twitch is a very unique platform, and when Twitch, just a quick history about what Twitch is and what it's used for. It was traditionally used for gaming. And a lot of people who are live streaming video games, they would go on Twitch, they'll start building a community, and people will watch them play different video games. Maybe it's somebody who, maybe you're a typical viewer, if you're playing a certain video game, they're trying to become better at the video game. So they're watching you because you're a master at it. Or maybe you just have a really fun personality and they just enjoy watching you and kicking it with you, chatting with you while you're doing whatever. It's since then evolved immensely, right? So now it's like video games is just like one small portion of it, but now there's like people doing arts on there. There's people just talking. There's people doing music. I love this. I forget the guy, this one creator, but he has his keyboard and he just has his setup and he's just boom, funky, right? He just cool live music. People are in this chat just like having a good old time. Now it's like transformed to where like T-Pain has a Twitch channel, and it's crazy. All these it's big names, right? And there's a small niche community of people who just love design in there. And what I do on Twitch is I do live design, right? And it's a package where if you were to sign on as a client of mine, you get a small discount if you sign on to, hey, if you let me, design your work from beginning to end, I know since there is a little added like, hey, like, your stuff is kind of be out there to a small audience, right? And they're seeing like the unfinished product, right? If you let me kind of be a guinea pig for me, and I'm pulling up Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop, all this kind of stuff, and I'm just doing my thing on there in progress, and people are interacting with me. People are be like, hey, I never thought to do this way, right? And what it's done for me is unlocked a new audience of people, of not just people who are prospective clients for me, but younger kids who want to get into design or want to get into the arts. They don't know the first thing about it, so they're learning from me. I've got a lot of feedback from kids who are like, hey, from watching your stuff, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but now I think I want to do design, right? So, which is really cool. So Twitch is a lot of younger following, but really it's a lot of everybody. Runs the gamut at this point. In 2020, 2021, you can watch somebody do just about anything under the sun on Twitch. It's similar to like watching like YouTube Live, right? Something like that, or somebody frequents like Facebook Live or something like that. It's very similar to that.
Okay, that's an amazing program and an amazing strategy, that you have, first of all. And I'm glad that I didn't know about Twitch, not because of my age, just because I'm not in that in that genre. Yep. So, age aside. All right. So, what's next for RJ the designer? Where do you see your business in 5 years? What would you like to have accomplished?
Wow, that's a great question. And it's always a question where it's like, it's kind of like, I'm at kind of crossroads where I could kind of branch into different types of things, but I really love content creation, similar to what we've been talking about. And I'd love to, grow my content creation arm of my business to a point to where, I could really get sponsors and people looking at my stuff. Like a dream sponsor of mine would be like Adobe. Right. There's an Adobe conference called the Adobe Max Conference where, it's for creatives and they bring on speakers. I would love to be a speaker at like a big creative conference, something like that. And, still, obviously, I love design work. But, I would love to have, maybe some big name companies or maybe build that part of my arm to where it's not so much, like I said, the actual in the nitty gritty doing it, but kind of delegate that arm of my business out so I can focus on stuff like this, talking with Tia and RET and the like, and, building up my platforms, like my TikTok platform. It's a small account. It has like 2,000-ish followers. Maybe it's getting to 2,000. That's my next goal. I've seen people with 100,000, right? So like continue to build on that. Just make my name for myself in my industry and things of that nature. So that's really what I'm passionate about. Also passionate about helping my target audience accomplish their dreams and goals and seeing some really cool success stories from the people that I helped. So that's what's on the horizon for me. Yeah,
definitely. So we need to make sure we tag Apple and Adobe with this video.
Yep, exactly.
Right? So that way we can see you up on that stage at, Adobe Max. Okay. Definitely want to encourage you in that endeavor. So great plan for the next 5 years. And I'm actually applaud you for even having a plan and thinking about that. I asked that because we want to know about you, but I also want to encourage our audience to think about, what's today, but what's also to come.
Yeah.
So do you have any, in this one, it may feel like I'm kind of putting you on I feel like I always kind of feel like I'm putting people on the spot with this one. So if you don't, the answer is no, that's perfectly fine. But do you have any special events or activities coming up that you like to share with our audience?
At the moment, I do not, but I'm working on building a course that is specific to coaches and consultants, right? And I want to be able to have something at a price point to if you didn't want to spend the coin to actually do the one-on-ones and hand-on nitty-gritty and have me do all this stuff. It's something that you can follow along with, right? And it's a course you can watch the video, do the homework. I was even thinking about, maybe sending the homework to me and I give it back and say, hey, this is what I like about it. So you still kind of get that kind of interaction, but it's more on you and what you're able to build. So I'm building a course like that. I don't have a timetable for when it's going to be done yet, but that's the next thing that I'm kind of working on and excited about, something specific to visual design and visual setup for your business just first starting out and setting you up for success, but something that you could do and something that you can afford if you're bootstrapping, because there's a lot of people who are out there who are bootstrapping their business, and I respect that 100%. So.
Yeah, definitely. I think that'll be an amazing course. So just on a side note, in the back of my head, with the networking group, I'm like, make a note, hold RJ accountable to creating a course that would help all of us. So definitely, we'll look forward to learning more about that course as you develop it and hopefully getting everybody enrolled when it becomes available.
Yep.
Okay, so finally, one last question before we end our interview. And I always ask this to everyone that we feature on this episode or on this series. What is one thing that you wish entrepreneurs, particularly entrepreneurs of color, knew about running a business? Like it could be a piece of advice or just something you wish they would stop doing and no one else is telling them to stop doing it. But what's one thing you would share with an entrepreneur about running their business?
That's a good question. And man, I feel like just in general, we are kind of behind the curve. I love like this new like renaissance of Black ownership, right? Especially like in this digital space. But, as far as like branding goes, right? And invest in your branding is important, right? I think that that's something that people think that they can skip. and they'll just be okay. But like, I feel like branding is a really good investment. So it kind of gets you on that right baseline to where, because how you present yourself, your first impression is going to set the tone of like subconsciously what kind of client you're going to attract. All right. So if you don't take the time to invest in your branding and you just kind of keep it to the bare minimum, guess what? You're going to have you're going to attract what you put out. It's just like that law of reciprocity, what you get out, what you put in. And I think that branding is something that we all believe in that, but we think that we can skid by on the visuals and and how we present ourselves. Like if you're going to a job interview, you're not going to just wear basketball shorts and a t-shirt, right? So you don't want your branding to be the basketball shorts and the t-shirt of your company, right? So I think that's something that we should all really look into, learn about, and really have at least a baseline understanding of like, what's the bare minimums to make my business attract who I want.
Oh, exactly. Oh, I love that. That is excellent advice. So thank you so much for sharing that with me and our audience. So I would like to thank you again, RJ, for joining us here today. I am super excited for everyone to learn more about you, about RJ, the designer, and touch base with you to learn how branding, whether it's their website, whether it's their logo, whether they want to contact you about coaching services or mentoring services. I'm putting all your stuff out there, right? Whether they want to know about your upcoming course, like anything. I encourage everyone in our audience to connect with RJ. The way I encourage, you to connect with other entrepreneurs. Like I said, RJ, all of his information will be posted down in the show notes. Everything from the free guide that he has, his website where you can find him on Twitch, on Instagram, on Clubhouse. I encourage all of you to connect with him, support him, ask him any questions that you have, and improve your business definitely by working with him. So RJ, thank you so much for spending this time with us, and thank you. Until next time, everybody, be great.
Thank you.
Wow, what an amazing featured interview. I hope that you learned a lot more about branding, what it is, and some things that you can implement in your business to get your branding to stand out from the crowd, but in a good way. Now, if you have any questions about RJ, about his logo design or his website design services, his coaching, his strategy sessions, and more, then reach out to him. All of his information is shared down below in the show notes. And don't forget to share his information with your community. Now, if you'd like to be featured in an upcoming episode of Entrepreneur Insider, reach out to me. My email is info@theblackentrepreneurssnetwork.com. As usual, this show is brought to you in partnership with Relationship Entertainment Television. If you haven't subscribed, be sure to hit that red button down at the bottom right. And while you're there, hit the bell so you're notified when we premiere new episodes. They come every week. Now, I want to know your thoughts about branding, your business name, the show, and more. So share them down below. I love reading them and we'll be sure to reply. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Thank you again for watching. Thank you to RJ. And until next time, don't forget, be great.